So I went to school to be a writer, and I started writing about ghost stories for October as features, and that slowly turned into a career that one could never plan. I started ghostvillage.com back in 1999, 15 years ago, which is crazy, and that evolved into a book career, and then I started writing television shows like Ghost Adventures. If you've been watching that, it's the longest I've ever held any one job. Thank you.
It's an awesome show, that's why.
Thanks.
It's all true.
Thanks for watching. And then I worked on Paranormal Challenge as a writer and researcher. I worked on Aftershocks, which started airing this year. And of course, New England Legends, you can say your good friend Jeff is Emmy nominated. And it's a real honor just to be nominated, which is exactly what us losers say. It's what we tell others. Oh, it's an honor just to be nominated. Bullshit. It sucks. But it's also really motivating. Like, I can't even tell you. My wish for all of you is that you will lose an Emmy one day and get focused like you've never been focused before. I also wrote a show called Amish Haunting. Did anybody see that?
Amish Haunting.
Awesome. That's one of those gigs that you just could never plan on getting. It just happened. A guy that used to work on Ghost Adventures called me and said, dude, this show it needs some help. And so I started working on it. And the funny thing is, I used to live in Amish country in Pennsylvania years ago when I was really young. And I remember we'd get stuck behind horse and buggies going to the grocery store. And one time, I was scarred for life. I was about 7 or 8 years old. And we go into the grocery store, and my mom forgot something. So she comes out, and there's these 3 Amish ladies sitting on a bench. And she says, will you watch my son just for a minute? I gotta run back in. So they nod. And my mom runs back in, and I look at these ladies, and they're just looking at me. They're not smiling, they're not saying anything, they're just staring. And I'm staring back like a deer in the headlights. Awkward. Really. And then finally my mom comes out, thank you! And I thought these people are so much better than us. They're different, they're black and white, they don't use like anything, they don't use TV or phones or whatever. And then working on Amish Haunting, I realized they're just as horrible as the rest of us. And I took great comfort in that. They just don't blow each other up on Facebook. And if anyone who is Amish got offended by the show Amish Haunting, they're probably going to get shunned for watching TV, so what? What are you going to do? Anyway, that's why I'm here. Why you're here is way more interesting to me, because I think I have the reason. And I think about all the stuff that's happening over the last many thousands of years, even millions of years, to get us all in this room. The way you were raised, the stuff you were exposed to as kids, the movies you watched, all of those things that went into making us who we are and interested in the paranormal. But the real story starts on an island in Ireland 2,000 years ago. Right here in County Roscommon, there's this burial mound, and you drive right by it unless you know what you're looking for. And if you go there today, there's a tree. And under the tree, there's a little tiny cave. It's so small, you'd have to get on your belly to crawl in. And this opening part is
Ghost Adventures.
2,000 years ago. Halloween was born right there in that cave. It's called Rathcrogan Cave. And you go in, and it goes back a little ways to a more natural part of the cave. And it's through here that every October 31st, they believe the goddess Morrigan would come forth with ghosts and monsters and imps and fairies. It was the day when the veil between the world of the living and the world of the dead was at its thinnest, and these creatures could come into our world and meddle in our affairs. And you leave offerings out for the dead. They'd have bonfires on this festival they called Samhain. And they'd dress their children up as these ghosts and monsters and trolls and things like that. So the creatures would be confused to not bring the kids back down into the underworld. Now, centuries later, the Catholic Church renamed this holiday. They made November 1st All Souls Day or All Saints Day, making the night before All Hallows Eve or Halloween. But all those delicious pagan roots are still there. For 2,000 years, we've been told the veil between the world of the living and the world of the dead is thin, and that's why in October we have ghost stories and scary movies and all this other stuff coming out. People often ask, are there more ghosts around in October? My answer is yes, definitely. Now, for all I know, there's twice as many in July, but the reality is we're all paying attention in October. All the muggles, not us, we pay attention all year round. But the muggles of the world are paying attention in October, and so we talk about ghosts and spooky things that go bump in the night, and it started this fascination that maybe they are around, maybe they can walk the earth. And then on this day, on Friday, March 31st, 1848, the Fox sisters heard a knock on the door, on the walls of their haunted farmhouse in Hydesville, New York, and a religion called spiritualism was born. They believed that you could literally communicate with spirits. And without the Fox sisters, that wouldn't have led to the field of psychical research. and the father of all ghost hunters, Harry Price, a guy that every paranormal investigator should know about, but many don't and have never heard of. You know, Harry Price was the original ghost hunter. In 1926, he wrote the book Confessions of a Ghost Hunter, where he talked about what an ideal lab would have is a galvanometer, an electroscope. He was measuring static charge and electric charges in the air. Think about it. In 100 years, we've evolved. Not at all. It's just our stuff lights up now and flashes and does different things, but for the most part, we're still following the same idea because the psychic way back when told Harry Price, yes, electricity, this new phenomenon of electricity explains all the magic of the paranormal. And so that's what he studied, and it's what we're still going with. They might be right, maybe that's exactly what's going on, but we're still working on theories that are a century old and we should at least understand where they came from. And so we're here, we're ghost hunting, we're talking about scary haunted movies, and we're moving boldly forward. Where are we? Now, is something really there? That's a huge question, and it varies. There's as many reasons for ghosts as there are ghosts themselves. But I think, in the next hour here, can I prove to you ghosts exist? No, I can't. But there's other stuff I can't prove to you either. Has anyone ever seen the wind? No, put your hands down. You haven't seen the wind, it's invisible, it can't be seen. But you can see its effects. You can see it blow trees around, you can feel it hit your face. You can see the market leaves. And that is what we can see. I can see where ghosts have been, even though I'm not psychic at all. I'm not even sensitive. I'm insensitive. Ask Dave Schrader. He calls me insensitive all the time. So what I wanted to do tonight, I think will be kind of fun. I've had such a crazy journey through many years of doing this now. And I just wanted to talk about some of the strange things that I've seen in investigations and conferences and events. I've gotten to travel with a lot of the kooks, and I mean that with nothing but affection and disdain at the same time. A lot of the kooks that are some of my fellow speakers and presenters. And this was a road trip once with Bob Murch, the Ouija board expert. We were on our way to Gettysburg. Murch, I really think we're lost. That's okay. I got something that's back. GPS. I get something back. Okay. I think I've ever done this in a car. How do we get to Gettysburg? S. O. U. T. H. South? That doesn't help. This doesn't help. It gets pretty weird sometimes. And then we were just getting impatient, frankly. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Doing 30-odd minutes, we've been doing this for like 4 years now, and I've had a lot of fun. One of the segments, we haven't done in a while, but used to do, I wanted to bust this out, was our one-question interview, because I think, the problem with some of the interview shows out there, they just go on and on and on. I try to get it down to just one question.
One-question interview.
We're here with Grant Wilson, one of the stars of the hit sci-fi show Ghost Hunters. Grant Wilson, have you ever done a one-question interview before? No. Thanks. Who has time? Really?